Hello and welcome to another video of the Grokking, the coding interview series, where we are going through the merge intervals pattern. And in this video, we'll have a look at the employee free time problem, which is classified as hard. Let's take a look at the problem statement. For k employees, we are given a list of intervals representing the working hours of each employee. Our goal is to find out if there is a free interval that is common to all employees. You can assume that each list of employee working hours is sorted on the start time. Okay, let's have a look at a few examples. Here we can see that 3 and 5 is common between both the employees. In this example, we have 4, 6, and 8 and 9. So essentially, you want to plot. Okay, so essentially you can go ahead and in a parallel way plot all the occupied intervals for all the employees, and then you can actually find the overlapping free times for all the employees as well. And similarly, we can find a slot here. We can see that 5 to 7 seems to be free here, and it isn't occupied here as well. So that will give us the free time for both these employees here. Essentially, what we should note is the number of employees can be k. So, I mean, in all these examples, we have 2 employees, but it can be a lot more as well. So one of the approaches I can think of right off my head is probably to go ahead and merge all the intervals into a single list, sort it, and then find the non-overlapping intervals, and that would actually show us the free slots. And when it comes to speaking about the runtime complexity, it would essentially, because we'll have to sort the list, and of course we'll have to unroll the list. It would essentially be n log n, and we'll be just iterating through all the elements once. So the time complexity will be n log n, and the space complexity will essentially be k times the number of intervals for each employee. Yes, and we want to keep it sorted, so that would be the space requirement. So let's try to go ahead and implement the first thought or solution we have in mind. Because we want to unroll the list, I want to go ahead and import 2 libraries which would allow us to do that, and let's name it schedules for the clarity's sake, and result will be free slots. This will be a list. So as the first step, we want to unroll the schedules, and this would simply be intervals. And in order to do that, what we want to do is we want to use functools to reduce. In addition, we want to use the function iConcatForm operator. We want to provide schedules, and we want to provide an empty list where the results will be stored. And once we have the list unrolled, we want to sort intervals. Lambda, and we want to sort on the start of each interval. Okay, so at this point we have all the elements sorted. As we have handled in the previous implementations, we know the drill, so we want to keep a track of the end, because all the comparisons will essentially happen on the end of the first interval and the start of the second interval. So for the first interval, we just want to keep a track of end. And at this point, we want to go I for I in range 1 because we've already accounted for the first interval. Length of the intervals, and our interval in this case will simply be intervals indexed on I. If you go into the previous videos which we have covered in this series, you'll see that this approach has become pretty standard. The way we are implementing things right now is pretty standard. So it's all about how much you practice, and this will actually be much more intuitive as we move on. So once we have the interval, we want to check for the overlapping condition, or we actually want to check for the non-overlapping condition. So wherever we find an interval which is not overlapping, it would give us free slot. So for example, if end is more than interval dot start, it would mean that we have identified a gap between the first and the second interval, which would give me an opportunity to append this interval into the free slots list. So the free slot will be the end of the first interval and the start of the second interval. And once I have this, I want to again go ahead and increment the end to the end of the next interval. So essentially, so that I can continue looping and comparing a pair of intervals as I maneuver through that list. And this should provide me the free slots I'm looking for here. So let's do a sanity check. Please feel free to have a look at this function here. It simply goes ahead to take all the elements within each of the list and just flatten out the list, like compose a single linear list out of the list of lists. And we also have another approach. Of course you can loop through all the list, however it isn't as efficient. We have another approach which uses the chaining from iter tools, but the most efficient one is the one which I'm using here at the moment. So let's quickly have a look at how it looks like. End is the first interval's end. We iterate because we've already accounted for the first interval. We skip that one. We extract the interval here. We see if they are not overlapping. If they are not, I append it into the free slots, and then I update the end here, and I return the free slots. Okay, let's run it and see in case we have any errors. Okay. If end is more than, okay, end should actually be less than here, because if you want to identify if they're not overlapping and end is from the first interval, then it should be less than. Okay, let's quickly check if we have the right answers. So the first list of intervals is 1 3 5 6 2 3 6 8, and it seems like 3 5 is indeed a free slot, or I think it would be better to just check it quickly above. We have 3 5 4 6 8 9 and 5 7. Okay, seems like this implementation is working fine. We already spoke about the space and time complexity. Please let me know in case there are any questions. I briefly went through their solution. They have implemented an even more optimal solution using heap. I will try to cover that solution and try to break in and explain it in another video. It wasn't as intuitive for me, so I'll just try to present it for you following this video. Until next video, have a great day. Please let me know in case there are questions, and do not forget to subscribe and like in case you enjoy this video series. Okay, see you soon.